senior design project was to establish a Texas wildfire suppression system. Our client is Bill Plummer. He's here joining us today, and he's also a member of the Distinguished Alumni Council here at SMU, and he is the mastermind of our concept that we're trying to get across to you guys today. So what we were tasked to do was come up with some kind of system in which Texas wildfires, the damage that they cause, could be significantly reduced. And wildfires are a huge issue in Texas, especially with global warming coming about. There's less precipitation and hence more wildfires. So what we're suggesting is that the Texas state government should buy 12 air tractors. And air tractors are aerial vehicles that can carry payloads of water and fire retardant and accurately drop these payloads onto wildfires. We also, to support this concept, we established an airport network that literally covers every square foot of Texas, and so these air tractors can reach every square foot. On top of that, we established a model using GAM software that really gives us a quantitative analysis of this concept and shows the efficiency of the program that we've come to establish. Just to give you guys an idea about the severity of the fires that we're talking about, if you look at these pictures, you can really see these fires are huge and they become this large in a very quick amount of time. If you look at this is a picture, a diagram of the fire, and at the most red point in this picture, that's the epicenter of the fire, where it was originally started. And as you can see on the graph in the bottom right, the longer the fire is allowed to rage, so to speak, the more damage that it causes, which seems logical. In 2012, there was over 30,000 Texas wildfires. Over 4 million acres burned and over 40,000 buildings were destroyed. Our objective is to use advanced analytics to create a logistical model to establish a quick response program that minimizes fire response time. I just want to emphasize that our point was to minimize the response time of a wildfire unit to get to a fire and engage the fire. This graph right here shows the impact that getting to a fire quickly could have on the amount of damage that it causes. The red line shows the damage a fire could cause without any kind of suppression system in place if the fire was just allowed to burn. The blue line coming off that red line is the current system. At this time point, the current system will engage the fire and will reduce the amount of damage done. The system that we're proposing is shown as this green line, and you can see the damage that's caused by the fire can be greatly reduced with our new system. This is a picture of the air tractor products that the company Air Tractor provides. It's a private organization. The specific plane that we're recommending is the picture on the top right. They have multiple models, but the one best suited for Texas in our system is, once again, the top right model. This right here is a quick spec sheet, an overview of the air tractor. It can carry over 820 gallons of water. It requires 2,000 foot runway length, and it can fly over 220 miles per hour. The thing that's so great about the air tractor, and one of the main reasons why we chose to use it, is its ability to drop water, a volume of water at a certain range. So the pilot controls how much water is being dropped over a length of time and a distance. This graph shows you just the controls of water that it can drop. Annie's going to tell you guys a little bit about the airport network that we established.
All right, so in order to establish our network, we had to kind of figure out what airports we did. So, or we needed to kind of contact and do a lot of research with that because there were certain specs. So what we decided to do was we were to choose 3 headquarters that are in cities that are strategically located around the state of Texas. And we discovered that at full speed, a air tractor plane can go up to 400 miles without having to fill up. So we wanted to keep it to make sure that it was within that range. And so those are going to be the starting points for our airplanes. So with our model, we discovered that 12 was about the optimal amount of planes we were going to do. So because there's 3 cities, we're going to spread them out, so 4, 4, and 4 at each headquarters city. And then around those cities, based on another radius, we wanted to make sure that each plane we didn't want the planes to travel more than 45 minutes without being able to refuel for and to refill their water tanks. So we have 12 refuel cities that are within that network as well. So, and that are all within range of the headquarters cities. So these are the airplane capabilities. Like I said, it can hold 420 gallons of water, which is dispersed over the fire line. And then it can run for 4 hours on a full tank. And the fuel type was jet fuel, so we also had to keep those factors in mind when deciding what airport to choose. So, like I said, the airport needed to have jet fuel accessibilities, and we needed to have a 3-inch hose connection to be able to fill up at a quick rate. So a large water supply was also important for that city. And then we didn't want any commercial radio systems that dictate the plane's takeoff, because that can kind of get jammed up, and we wanted planes just to be able to come in, land, fill up, and go without having to wait for other planes to go in and out. And then we extended the runway length to 3,000 feet, so that way the plane can come in, stop, refill their water needs or refill their jet fuel needs, and continue to just take off instead of having to turn around or deal with any of that. So these are the airport locations we decided on. So Midland, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, and San Antonio were the 3 airports that we wanted to headquarter the sets of 4 planes each. And then these were going to be the refuel and refill locations that we landed on. So this is a picture of just kind of the wildfire tendencies. This also had played a role in deciding where to put the cities. As you can see, the red dots, we're focused on wildfires. So as you can see, the red dots kind of are, more in this area. So we want to make sure there was a lot of overlap there. So the red dots indicate fires that are over 1,000 acres. So those are big fires. So we really wanted to make sure we had an emphasis there and had a large amount of refuel and refill cities there. So this is an example of a hypothetical situation. So let's say there was a fire right outside of Amarillo. Within the radius, the closest city, or the closest headquarters city is Midland. So the plane, or the set of 4 planes or whatever, would take off, would disperse their water, or their full tank around the fire line, and then go to Amarillo, and then they could refill their water tank and go back and forth around the fire line until the fire was done. And so then they could just go back to Midland, Texas, where it was headquartered originally. So this would just take a lot of time instead of having to worry about going from Midland to fire and coming back and forth. So like I said, we're trying to reduce time. This is an overall model. I mean, this looks kind of confusing, but so you can see the radius around the 3 headquarters cities, and then the smaller radius around each refill and refuel city that we landed on. So that would be the map for the entire network for all the airports. So I'm going to hand it over to Kristen to talk a little bit about our optimization model.
Thanks. Sorry about being late. I fell down my stairs like a huge klutz, rushing over here, and kind of had to gather myself a little bit because it flustered me a little bit. But okay, so our optimization model, we decided that we were going to use a generalized optimization network model. So it's basically has a slew of nodes, and from each node there's arcs, and those arcs have flow. And in order to get from one node to the next, there's a multiplier that's applied, and that will be changing the demand. So when it flows in, you're going to have the fire size, and then once the planes do their water drops, the fire will be reduced. So that's where the flow is reduced. We also chose to use a generalized network programming model. So we applied that model to software, which we had some tips from Dr. Barr, because we had never used this before. It's called GAMS, or Generalized Algebraic Modeling System. And we decided on 12 planes. In our optimal solution, we're going to factor in all our variables, all the different fire behavior equations and things that we came up with in order to simulate one instance of a fire and how we can solve that. So this is just a diagram of what we're talking about as far as each node represents one drop. So the initial drop the initial node is not a drop because it's when the fire started. And then the first drop is when we were able to engage the fire. So the planes make their first drop per plane. So there's 12 planes. In our solution, we ended up having, the first drop had used all 12 planes, and the second drop only used 7. So we were able to cut costs in that sense that even though we used 2 drops, we didn't need to use all 12 planes both drops. And this all varies depending on what the size of the plane, the size of the fire is, and weather conditions, different things that factor in a real life situation. And we tried to account for as many of those things as possible when we were doing our model. So as you can see, from each arc, the demand changes, and then the arrow down, the arc down is going to be the planes making their drop. So there's hypothetically to be 12 arrows going down there to simulate that. And this is just a screenshot of what our code looked like. So it's somewhat simple or similar to Ample, but it's a little simpler and it gives more comprehensive output. So when we're putting in all our equations, we have the different variables such as our cost, our total cost, our supply, and then our T, as I said earlier, is our nodes accounting for each drop. So we're trying to reduce time and costs, and we've assorted different costs, different variables in order to get that simulated as realistically as possible. And this is just what our output looks like, and this is just one little piece of it. But as you can see right here on the left, there's lots and lots of lines of code and output, but we only want to focus on a couple lines. Right here is our solution. As I said earlier, we have 2 drops, and there's 12 planes on the first drop, and then there's the 7 planes, so the top 6 and then plane number 12. So each of those planes is being used for that first drop. They're going to do their thing and drop the water and extinguish part of the fire. And then for the second drop, not all the planes were needed, so that's why we were only using 7. And then in conclusion, like I said, we've only used 12 planes for the first drop, and the second drop we used 7. But our total model is meant to show you that through a optimization model and networking and figuring out the best way to approach and engage a fire, we can extinguish it and reducing costs and reducing damages, because wildfires are very devastating and they can really create a lot of problems. And when the federal government isn't able to come in and quickly assess what they have going on, the fire is going to do much more damage. So having a statewide system in place will really, really reduce that cost, and also our model is very efficient and use their tractor planes to extinguish that fire. So, any questions?
Questions? So, you came up with 12 planes. Now, make sure I got this right. Are there 4 planes in each of 3 cities? Is that it? And then there's 12 city locations for refilling? And what if you tried like 8 planes or 10 planes or 16? Did you model it that way at all, or how did you come up with it?
We kind of just played around with our numbers, and when we were coming up with the actual code for our GAMS program, we messed with different variables, and a couple of them had to be calculated based on research we did. And with that particular variable, though, we just kind of decided that we needed to get between 5 and 20, no more than 20. Obviously, it's too many, but we ended up on 12 because it gave us a good number.
We came up with 12. Another reason is because each airplane costs about $1.2 million, and the point in which there was a break-even point as far as the cost-benefit analysis, so to speak. It seemed it was most economical with 12 airplanes, because we could still, with 12 airplanes, you could still significantly get to the fire quickly and put it out at a high rate and reduce the damage, but in an economical way.
Yeah, that's.
Because in addition to the cost of water and fuel, you have to think about the pilot salary and the maintenance costs for the airplanes, the storage. So there's a whole bunch of different economic factors that go into holding the airplane.
We factored in a cost for each plane, and so when we did change the number in our code, that threshold kind of
So you're
was
trying to
realized.
minimize that cost?
Yeah, we realized the cost based on that threshold, because once we started putting in higher numbers, the cost didn't outweigh the benefits. Yeah.
And did you use some kind of historical, this is where some fires were, or did you just simulate, okay, a spark's gonna drop here somewhere?
Yeah, we definitely looked at that. We looked at, I mean, as far as the numbers for the code, so for one of the numbers is, cost and fire flow arc, so the cost we did the cost per square mile. So for that, to calculate that number, we definitely have to look, at a bunch of different fires, look at cost of timber, cost of houses, and, those were in acres, so we had to kind of transport into miles, and then, we looked at a lot of Texas wildfires, and then just kind of got average numbers based on those, based on the areas and everything. So that's how we came up with that number. And then, yeah, so a cost of using it, all the numbers we came up with were kind of used from past experiences, just time it would take, and everything like that. So we definitely looked at a lot of historical data for figuring out those numbers.
That map that you had that had the red and the blue dots on it, what,
This one,
Yeah.
the other ones.
2011 fire statistics.
fire
This
statistics?
one, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was just 2011, okay.
Yeah, so that's how that was used to help kind of choose. Well, if you looked at a lot of maps, not just 2011, a lot of fires are in this region right here. So
This was the
that was
easiest.
kind of this was just kind of an easy visual to use. So that's why if you go down one,
Oh, yeah.
that's there, down one more.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's why like there's a lot of overlap here, because we wanted to make sure that the time was definitely reduced over there, because that's definitely where there's a heavy amount of wildfires.
And I assume you can move those planes around if there'll be
Mhm.
5 in one spot because it's
Yeah.
dry out there.
This was, I mean, it all obviously depends on weather conditions and everything like that. So if it's drier in one area, it's gonna be more prone, so they can easily be moved around.
Let's think about fires there.
So would every fire use all 12 planes? Is that kind of the idea?
Depending, I mean, if there's more than one fire, for our simulation, we decided to do all 12 planes. So, you know, you could do like 4, 4, 4. Our simulation kind of has them all kind of dropping around at the same time. But, I mean, if there's more than one fire, we can split them up. It just is gonna depend really on the situation.
We had the planes set up as binary variables, so like we could turn off a certain number if we needed to, and then have them assign somewhere else if like there was another fire or something, so they're on and off.
So, if you had fewer planes, the fire would just last longer, right?
Yeah.
So, was this like, you got it, put out in like two drops, there's just two sets of all the planes coming and doing a drop? How, if you had less than 12, kind of how much longer did it extend? And
I think, yeah, it ended up being, I think we tried with like a couple less planes, it just ended up being more drops, obviously, because that's just
Sure.
gonna play off of it. And then the time increased, so,
Yeah, like we did like 5 planes, or no, we did 8 planes for a little while, and then it ended up being like 5 drops, but adding a couple more planes, making it 12, significantly
Yeah.
reduced the amount of drops, so we just decided.
it's for our simulation, for our fire size, that was the optimal value.
that might have been cool to show a graph of
Yeah.
planes versus time to extinguish.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, that would be a good way, I mean, if you're trying to sell this as a business model, or sell it to the state, I think they'd wanna see, okay, how many planes, what's the damage time here, or the cost, benefit trade-off for the various planes.
That was a little difficult, just because we don't, it's gonna be variable as far as like maintenance and personnel, because that's gonna all depend on, you know, the different airports and the different, and that's obviously gonna come on, the government's budget.
Yeah.
They have to budget all of
We
it,
didn't
so
have
we didn't really have a constraint for our costs, so that's what made it a little bit difficult to kind of come up with one, because it was all very hypothetical, so.
Okay, it was, I think it's super reasonable.
Yeah, basically, we looked at the old budget for, I think it was for this year, I guess,
Yeah.
for the, kind of, wow, just their suppression system.
It's good, don't get me wrong, what you did, I mean, I like that, I'm just saying that, let's say you present this to the lawmakers, you want them to be able to make a decision, they want to be able to make a choice, decision, and they'll want to be the ones that decide, do I wanna buy 10 or 12 or
Sure.
or 14, and so if you can show them what the trade-offs are, that helps.
On one of those graphs, you showed the models between the current system and the MOAG system. And
like
Yeah.
right there,
Yeah.
that one.
So if I look at the graph, it looks like you can get to the fire faster. How
Mhm.
much faster can you get with the system?
Days faster, I mean, it.
Faster than what?
The
What's
current
there now?
system, because you can see they're looking different in terms
If
of
we
times of
looked at the
hours.
Prairie,
It was Possum Kingdom.
Possum Kingdom, sorry, Possum Kingdom Fire, and what was happening is because there was so much kind of red tape around the governmental system, they had to wait to get planes, from North Carolina and Canada.
And that was also something that Mr. Palmer
Mhm.
was helping us with,
So
The
that,
actual-
that was a few days of just paperwork, of
the
just
actual
administrative,
process.
thing that, which caused them, so much time and so much damages. So if we're trying to cut past the red tape so we can have, so Texas can have its own,
That's why Texas
System.
is
So the current system
is federally
today
run.
it's federal.
is borrowing other people's money.
Yeah,
Okay.
And there really isn't even that much of a system in place as far as these planes go, because, for whatever reason, our government doesn't invest in these planes to use, like, as their own, because they have them as a contract, instead of, like, having them for the government, they're contracted out. So that in itself is hard to get that process going, because if it's contracted out, you have a lot of different, rules, and they're not necessarily gonna be close, whereas Canada, Mr. Palmer was telling us that Canada has a lot of these planes set up, ready to go by their government, so that they can address wildfires, but we don't have that in place for whatever reason, so that's why we figured Texas would take charge and do it.
If I can comment, because
Yeah,
Please do.
he's the expert.
10 years ago, the federal government had 40 airplanes. Today, last week, they let a contract to private companies for 8. That's all we have. And they're called legacy contracts. Every one of those 8 airplanes is over 50 years old. You remember the Colorado Springs fire? It took 5 days for the red tape to get through to get one airplane on site. And you know what happened? You know what happened at Possum Kingdom? And these planes are built in Alney, Texas, 40 miles from Possum Kingdom. And instead of using very expensive old airplanes that the federal government gives a lot of money for, the idea is, when you look at the current system, that's really men on the ground going out there, putting out the fire with either a pickup truck that's got, tanks in the back. The proposed system is getting some airplanes that can drop right on it.
So it sounds to me like part of this business case, what you've got is you get savings of loss and damage just because you can start earlier,
Mhm.
right? As well as it's more efficient system, which means you can extinguish the fires faster.
Yep.
So earlier and faster, if you
Time.
get those dollar figures, it's been a pretty compelling case for the government to say, I get it. Cost in terms of the benefit for the
Or the insurance company.
or the insurance companies, yeah,
You could get insurance companies probably to pay for this,
you probably could.
Question?
Who does, Air Tractor, who do they sell their planes to now if it's not?
A lot of their stuff is agricultural, they sell out of the country.
Yeah.
But they sell to Canada, but they, a lot of, most of their they have like a couple of firefighting models, but like they have a ton of models for agriculture, like crop testing. So a lot of that is to agricultural companies.
They also sell their fire suppression models a lot to Portugal and Spain.
And Europe has a lot of, as well as Canada, they have these systems in place already for whatever reason they don't, so.
One last thing, is so they sell the planes, who actually runs this service? Is it a company, does the government run the service?
We're hoping the government, I think that's kind of what our idea was, that the government can budget this because,
State, Air National Guard.
yeah.
The National Guard's the pilots and the ones that.
They got the pilots, they got the facilities, they got the maintenance crews.
So I'll ask you the same question I asked that last group. What kind of big challenges did you run into that you felt like you had to overcome as a team?
I think I can speak for all of us. They could probably add in on personal things, but definitely one thing that we came across was a lot of our analysis and our model had never particularly been done before. At least we couldn't find any previous experience with it, and a lot of the concept was more theory-based, so it was kind of difficult to get a quantitative number out of everything, and to get a quantitative variable, so to speak.
Yeah. Also another difficult, I mean, just the system in general, implementing a new system, we had nothing to base it off of. It's not like there's any systems in place that we could have been like, you know, finding everything from.
Copy this. or-
Yeah, we couldn't have, I mean,
Yeah.
or even like optimize or make a system that's already in place better, so that, we kind of had to come up with something all on our own, so that was difficult. Also using GAMS, I think, was playing around with that, it was actually really cool, it was a good experience, it was a really cool modeling system, but we never used it before, so that was something else.
Another thing that was really difficult that Dr. Barr helped us out a lot with was finding a rate of growth of a fire, so to speak. So the rate in which a fire expands.
So variable.
Yeah, a lot of our analysis was based off that number, and that was really difficult to
Kind of something
come
weird,
up with.
yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, next up, we have the Highline Inventory Management Group. Move that up here.
Okay, we're looking for him, 51